microphone is muted except my own, and I'm going to mute mine because I'm going to pass the ball to Abdul to give us a basic framework on implicit bias.
Thank you, Don. Again, good afternoon to everyone. I'm going to take a little bit of time here to introduce the topic, reintroduce it to many of you because you've probably heard or gone through some sessions about bias, and give you some tidbits. And then we're going to watch a short 3-minute video that should reiterate some of the things that I say and just provide a definition and understanding in a different way. So first and foremost, what I want to start with is that I will not fall down these stairs, okay? So many of you who may be looking at the camera, you're thinking I'm a little closer to those stairs than I am. Promise you I will not fall. Second thing that I'm going to say is bias in its most natural state is simply that. It is bias. It is not good. It is not bad when it is neutral. However, what I want to also make clear is that the ways in which we respond and act based on the biases we have are what makes outcomes positive and or negative. Moreover, most commonly, the people that are negatively impacted by the biases that we have are the people who have traditionally been discriminated against and oppressed. Talking about women, Black people, Indigenous people, people of color, those from lower socioeconomic statuses, LGBTQIA, and those who have different levels of ability, physical and or non-physical. And what's happening with bias is it's starting to develop at the earliest stages of our brain development. And when neurologists first started doing research on bias, their goal early on was to figure out how can we completely eliminate biases from people's brains. And they realized very quickly, well, that ain't gonna happen. And so what we're trying to think about when we have our biases is the ways in which we recognize them and then respond to them. So focus on the notion that we all have biases. They're always turned on. And what we need to be thinking about is how can we know that we have them and respond in ways that have the outcomes that we are looking for. And what's happening in our brains is that our brain organizes all of our experiences, everything we've ever taken in as information, into a book of rules. And that book of rules consciously and unconsciously impacts the way that we behave in the world. Now, this is the kicker for me, y'all. This is the thing that motivates me the most when I'm tired and I'm like, man, I got enough to do. I don't want to think about my bias. Here's what keeps me motivated. Is because our book of rules impacts our behaviors, it then also impacts how we experience the world. I want y'all to think about that for a minute. So essentially what that's saying is the things that you were read as a child, the TV shows that you watched, the content that you took in at an early age, which you had no control over, is actually impacting how you experience the world. And for me, that's a huge motivator because I don't want my experiences in the world to be predetermined by something that I had zero control over. So what do we want to do instead? And I want to introduce this kind of acronym and framework for us to be thinking about how we recognize and respond to biases. NPR. So what am I talking about when I say NPR? The first one is about neutralizing. So what we are doing is we are taking time to stop, ask more questions, do more research, think more in depth about why I have the reaction that I am having. Neutralize is the N. The P is about pivoting. But what I want to make clear about the pivot is it's not that you have to change your response. It's about offering yourselves the opportunity to change your response. So the P is once you've gathered more information, you've taken time, you've asked some more questions, you've done some more research, you offer yourselves the opportunity to have a different reaction or respond differently. Again, the opportunity to pivot, not necessarily that you have to. And then this last piece with the R is about running towards our biases. So I mentioned earlier that we can't completely get rid of them. We're all going to have them. So what we want to do is we want to own them. We want to say, yes, I have these types of bias. So therefore, I want to own that and I want to practice reacting differently or reacting in the ways that will lead to the outcomes that we're looking for. So one of the things that Don asked me to touch on in this opening segment is what are some of the tools and ways in which we can measure our biases? The first thing that I'll say, and most of you are probably no small strangers to the implicit association test, it's implicit.harvard.edu. I would encourage you to consider taking one or many of the implicit association tests. First thing that I'll say is if and when you take them, and you get your results, don't feel bad about them, y'all. Don't feel guilty. Most of us who are smart, we take implicit association tests and then we don't get the results we want, and we just keep taking the same one over and over until it moves a little bit closer to where we want it. Don't do that, y'all. My most recent one, I found out that I favor younger people more than more seasoned people. And so I have to consciously be thinking about that, right? I didn't retake the test over and over again. That's one way that we can think about it. And one way that we can try and adjust and own and run towards our biases. Secondly, y'all, and I'm gonna put this out there, this is hard work. This ain't easy. It's tiring, takes a lot of effort, takes a lot of mindfulness. But the second way in which we can start to identify and kind of measure where our biases are at is to really lock in and have a sense of self, to think deeply about how we feel in certain situations, how we feel when we encounter some people versus other people. Is there a gut feeling that you have? Do you go into flight mode? Do you have facial expressions that might pop out? Because as you start to do that more and more, you will start to notice where those biases are kicking in and then be able to move towards them. Let me give you a quick example of what I mean by that. I have 3 degrees from the University of Minnesota, all right? And when I look at 2 resumes, one at the top, it says the University of Minnesota, and the other one has some lesser institution to the east of us that goes by the name of University of Wisconsin, I know good and well that I have a bias towards the University of Minnesota. So when that's the case, what I need to be doing is say, all right, try to take out the 2 institutions, look at the qualifications and how that aligns with the job description, hoping that the job description is also properly written. So let me stop there, and we're gonna kick to a 3-minute video now that I think you'll see some correlations to what I talked about as far as slowing down, taking time to ask more questions, and things like that. So Lamar, would you please hit us with the video? Perfect. We're not hearing any sound, Lamar. I think when you share your screen, there's going to be a...
The unconscious mind is amazing. It can process vastly more information than our conscious mind by using shortcuts based on our background, cultural environment, and personal experiences to make almost instantaneous decisions about everything around us. The snag is, it's wrong quite a lot of the time, especially on matters that need rational thinking. Here's a classic example. A bat and a ball cost £1.10. If the bat costs £1 more than the ball, how much does the ball cost? Most people, including over 50% of students at some of the world's leading universities, get the answer wrong and say 10 pence. The answer is actually 5 pence. Many of us choose 10 pence without thinking. This is because our unconscious mind uses instinct, not analysis. So our unconscious is fallible. It's also biased. It makes snap judgments of people we meet, categorizing them according to gender, social, and other characteristics. In milliseconds, we judge whether somebody is like us and belongs to our in-group. These are the people we favor. So men might favor men, while women might favor women. However, we can belong to different in-groups, and we like to be part of an in-group that's powerful, which could mean a woman favoring a man over a woman. That's unconscious bias. All of us have it, and it colors our decisions without our realizing. For example, research reveals that if I were a man, you would be more likely to be nodding in agreement right now, because people pay more attention to a male voice. The Royal Society fosters excellence in science, but this can only be achieved if we select from the widest range of talent. And that's not possible if unconscious bias is narrowing down the field for non-scientific reasons. To lessen the impact of unconscious bias, which is easier for us to notice in others, we are raising the awareness of unconscious bias to members of our selection and appointment panels. We're encouraging panel members to deliberately slow down decision-making, reconsider reasons for decisions, question cultural stereotypes, and monitor each other for unconscious bias. We can't cure unconscious bias, but with self-awareness, we can address it.